Hey, it's Margie with the Asking Spot, and this time the project is my bathroom. This is the only room we didn't do anything to when we first moved in. It's because the rest of the house needed a lot of work. In addition to having to update the whole kitchen, we also had a paint theme throughout the house that, let's just say, they might have been Washington football team fans.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
With a hint of park bench green too.
That's wrong.
That was an accent wall in a lot of the bedrooms. Needless to say, this bathroom didn't look all that bad. However, when I went thrifting and needed some fabric, I came across this shower curtain. Oh, I love it! So it is the inspiration for just giving this bathroom a refresh. I'm gonna try and do it the right way. Also gonna test out a piece of cutting in paint brushy thingy. You know, some people have sanding's their least favorite thing. For me, cutting in is. So I'm going to try this new brush and see if that helps.
Wave the wand.
When I did my other video on trying to restore a metal plant stand, if you missed it, I'll do one of these and one of these. I tried out various products, and one of the products I remained on the fence was because I didn't feel like it was a fair test, was this. So I went ahead and I've tried it now on this. And to be fair to this product, once again, I didn't do it exactly right. I should have just been doing, you know, short little bursts. And of course I did try that once the camera was off out of frustration, and it worked much better. So as a whole, I would say, yeah, this was pretty cool. We'll see though, letting it dry, I think it's like 2 to 3 hours, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put the chrome top coat on it, the spray that I have, and hopefully it'll look great. Well, here we have it after 2 coats of metallic paint. I mean, if you're in person and really up close, you can still see some dents in here. So I'm not perfectly satisfied with this, but yeah, it's gonna be underneath some shampoo bottles. This should be great.
That'll do, pig.
Gonna be doing these before I paint because they need some time to dry. Clearly something went on here because it's not like the rest of it. I don't know how much I can fix that. Hopefully I can do something with paint. But otherwise, just gonna be putting some patchwork in. This is what I'm using, you know, goes on pink, dries white. Yay.
That is not pink.
Now, before I go ahead and start, you know, taping things off and putting paint on the walls, I actually have to clean them. Generally speaking, you should clean your walls before you paint them no matter what, because there's dust in the air, your hair, dog dander, spider webs. You want to clear those off before you slap some paint on the wall. But you especially want to do that in a bathroom that might have hairspray or soap and detergent splattered on the walls. And I'll leave it right there. But you get the idea. You definitely want a clean surface to be painting on. I would be absolutely untruthful if I said I did it everywhere in the rest of the house. I will admit though, I did do it in all the corners because I knew there I would have spider webs, and that's where usually dust would collect. But definitely your bathroom, you got to clean all the walls. What to clean it with? I like to use just vinegar and water because then I don't have to really think about rinsing it because it usually just evaporates away. You could probably also do just fine with using a dish soap and using that in a clean cloth or whatever, but then you have to be conscious of, got to rinse that off too. So there you go. Now this would be one of those great moments where I just went like this. Wait, you forgot something. and you saw the paint looking really nice. But I want to go ahead and show what the brush would do. So I'm not going to go quite that fast.
Paint must paint. Paint.
So now we're looking at the next day, and I gotta say, I really am pleased with the paint. I originally thought, okay, this is gonna take 2 coats because I've never painted a room where I didn't have to go and do 2 coats. But everywhere that I had sufficient amount of paint in my pan looks great. This section, well, not so much, but it's not the paint's fault. It was getting late, dinner was getting done, and I just had, I didn't want to pour any more paint in and maybe waste it, especially because I thought, oh, I'm coming back tomorrow to do a whole second coat. I would not have to do more painting in this at all. If I had just put a little more paint on, it would have taken in 1 coat. So well done, Valspar. And then as for the lovely little brush, that was a cheapy little brush, the trim painter brush. The best thing about it wasn't, yes, it was great at getting the cutting in parts, but behind my lights in tight spots, I was able to do a much better painting job because it could get in there real flat. And so for that alone, well worth it. Okay, here's the fun part. Let's talk paint sheen. We have got flat, we've got eggshell, we've got satin, semi-gloss, and gloss. Now sometimes the semi-gloss and satin are interchangeable and you won't find a difference there. So I'm going to leave those kind of alone and we'll stick with the other options, which are also ceiling paint and trim paint. Now, ceiling paint is a flat paint. And there's a reason for it. Ceilings are very, very hard to get even when they're originally installing them. So very often they'll put some texture on it. And the texture, even when it's not popcorn, is something you don't necessarily want to highlight because when you do that, when you put a shine to it, you create a highlight here, but you also create a shadow. So those get really extreme when you put a gloss or the shinier you go. So usually they're put in a very flat paint.
A flat.
That way it doesn't show the differences as much. The only problem with it is it also stains. So if you say had a smoker in the house, that would stain the ceiling. So if you went to try and change, say your ceiling, like you wanted to, touch it up because you're moving and you're trying to sell your house, you'd have to paint the whole ceiling over. But at least if we all stuck to the idea of just leaving them white and just grabbing ceiling paint and going with that, designers, it'd make things a little easier. Of course, to each their own, it's your house, you paint it whatever you want, but that's at least the theory as to why you would do it in a flat.
Did we or did we not decide to paint an accent ceiling?
Moving on to our eggshell. Now, eggshell is almost a flat, but it's got a little shine to it. It makes it a little perkier than the flat. And it's often used in bedrooms because you don't want necessarily a whole lot of light bouncing around in a bedroom because you want it calm and quiet. So that's usually where you'll find your eggshell paint. Or you might find it in the living room. Now, a living room can be a toss-up. Sometimes it's an eggshell, sometimes it's a semi-gloss or a satin. This definitely went with a satin. It's because I definitely want light bouncing around in it. It's a small room. It kind of helps to make it have that more open feeling. Then we move on to glosses. Now, glosses, generally speaking, are remnant to the trims. And that's because trims have horizontal surfaces. So dust will collect on there and it makes it easier to clean when you're in a gloss. Gloss, like I said though, with the ceiling, the idea is the more gloss you have, the more you can see, highlights and lowlights and shadows. So it isn't always recommended to put all over everywhere. It's a little too in your face, but it's ideal for trims. Of course, semi-glosses work perfectly because they're not, totally gloss. When it comes to the trim in here, I wasn't the original painter. I don't know what they used, if they just went and bought straight up trim paint in white. Hopefully, if they did, they went and looked for an ultra white in a semi-gloss, because that's what I bought. The idea you want to go with an ultra white is because you can't just pull any white off the shelf. They do have different tones to them. It's maddening and there's just too much detail to go into that, but you know, they can come off a little on the bluer side or a little on the warmer side, even though you're like, what? It's just white, right? But yeah, there's total variations. So generally sticking with an ultra white should get you just right in the middle of those two. And it's a great base for adding color to it or just leaving as is. But as I do not know if this is what they used with this, I could be stuck painting all the white over again to make it uniform. We'll see. I figure the best place to test out the white paint is on this door because see that was already there before I started doing anything. And even if the paint doesn't match up perfectly, that's gotta have something on it, right?
Paint! Paint!
As we take a look back at where we started, I ask if you could please subscribe if you got anything useful info from this. I'd really appreciate a thumbs up too. And now, cue the happy YouTube music. It's time to show the final results. Wait, sorry. I really just can't take those feet. I gotta paint those too. So I'm gonna do the second coat where I just really didn't have enough paint going on. The thing that I love that is great about it is if you do like I did, I just used the actual bag that I had in my liner and wrapped it around my paintbrush. Well, I can now unwrap this and use it in some new paint and off I go.